Coming up, we'll recap some big late-season matchups and let you know who's on alert for an undefeated season.
And you may know his name, but do you know his story? We'll tell you about Mason Archambault, the electric point guard who has his team marching toward the playoffs.
All that plus previews and picks for some of this week's biggest games. Varsity Sports starts right now. And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, what a night of high school hoops across the Dakotas on Tuesday.
Tuesday was fun indeed, and we'll get to recap some of that action as well as take a look at some of the games coming up over the next week as we hit the stride for the playoffs.
Yeah, let's get into your high school hoops headlines for this week. So we'll start with Tuesday night's battle in Bismarck. Legacy hosted the top team of the WDA and got the win, 61-54. Mercedes Baumgartner scored 27 points for Legacy to lead the way. That completes an undefeated home season for the Sabres, who gain a share of the WDA lead with that victory.
Things are getting interesting, that's for sure. There's another top 5 matchup. This one was in South Dakota on Tuesday. Brandon Valley traveled to Brookings in boys hoops, and Brookings got the 58-42 win with some lockdown defense and some great outside shooting. Brendan Carlson led the way for the Bobcats, 13 points, 10 rebounds, and now they turn their attention to O'Gorman, the number 1 team in the state, coming up Friday night.
Another big one there. All right, a little drama around the area last weekend. Friday night, Anna Brecht hit this three to force overtime against Rapid City Central. Lincoln eventually got the win, 65-59. Brecht had 28 points and 9 boards to pace the Pats, who won again the following day, giving them now 8 W's in their last 9 tries. Also on Saturday, Del Rapids hoping to avoid a 5-game losing streak in a tough matchup against St. Thomas More. They were down 1 in the final seconds, but Carson Rent hits a huge 3 to lift the Warriors to an exciting 53-51 victory.
That's the kind of shot that can turn a season around, hopefully, for Del Rapids. Saturday also saw Aberdeen's Peyton Burkhardt go for a big 30-point, 12-rebound game. She helped her team get a double overtime win against Brandon Valley. Big win for the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, Fargo Oak Grove has put a nice 7-game winning streak together, which now includes wins over Milner North Sargent and Northern Cass. The Grovers are led by Andrew Christensen and Bryce Bakergard, who combined to average almost 40 points per game.
It's a team to watch out for. Century tossed their hat back in the ring, the WDA ring that is, with a stellar defensive performance last Thursday. They upended Dickinson 63-47. That win by Century put a stop to Dickinson's 15-game winning streak. Junior Josh Sipes led Century in that game with 18 points in the win.
Finally, we want to pass along our best wishes to Brent DeCook, the St. Mary's boys basketball coach who just a week ago underwent brain surgery for sarcoma, which is a rare form of brain cancer. DeCook returned from last week's successful surgery at the Mayo Clinic and was on the bench for Tuesday night's game. That's just a week afterward, Jason. He'll need to continue radiation and likely some chemo in the future, but it seems pretty clear that Brent DeCook is up for the fight.
And they got the win, so it was nice.
All right, well, lots more to come here on Varsity Sports, including previews and picks for some of this week's biggest games. But first, find out what makes Mason Archambault the most versatile point guard in South Dakota.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Welcome back. Rapid City Stevens has improved their record in each of the last 3 seasons, and it's no surprise that this guy, Mason Archambault, has been along for the ride during that incline. As the Raiders' win total improves, so too does Archambault's game. Here's more on one of the most dynamic players in South Dakota. There are not a lot of high school players that have the ability to handle the ball, finish, shoot, defend, pass, and lead. Well, Mason Archambault is one of those players that can do it all.
If you got good guard play, you can go a long ways, and especially when you got one like Mason, a kid that is a great teammate. You know, he gets his other teammates involved, but when it's time for him to take over, he can do that as well. So there's no doubt having that leader at the point guard spot is so important.
I like scoring, but I like getting people, like getting assists more, and for them to have confidence. so they can be better and help our team.
Mason's on-court skills have never been in question, but now his mental game is stepping up too.
You know, he's always had the ability, the skills. I think it's just the mental side of the game that he's really improved on, you know, just from last year to this year is, you know, knowing if I pick up a foul, hey, I can't pick up a second one. Or, you know, if I need to get some other guys involved, get their confidence going, that's what I'm going to do here. But yet, when I need to take over, that's what I'm going to do. So that, I think just the mental side of the game has been what's the most improvement from last year to this year.
Mason's game is influenced on the court by his dad, Russ Archambault. Russ grew up in North Dakota and played for the Gophers at the University of Minnesota.
Well, I started falling in love with basketball when my dad played college basketball at Minnesota, and I just love the environment there.
His dad now lives in Florida, but is still a big part of influencing Mason's game.
My relationship with my dad is very good. He lives up in Miami, and he comes to every one of my games. He flies up here every weekend to pretty much watch me. I go down there during the summer to train with him and with NBA skills trainers, and go to camps, and I have a AAU team down there.
Now in Mason's senior season, he has his team, Rapid City Stevens, at the top of the class.
Only 2 of us played with each other last year, so it was kind of new getting our chemistry back. And we've done a very good job getting our chemistry this year.
But we know we're still a work in progress. You know, we've got to work on the back-to-backs, and we want to be a finished product by the end of the year.
Stevens is one of a handful of teams with a legitimate shot at taking the AA crown this year, and they're hoping to make this season memorable. The AA state tournament is in Rapid City this March.
Well, we obviously have a goal to win the state championship, and having it here in Rapid City makes it awesome because our environment's going to be great.
Talk about versatility, Jason, with Mason Archambault, and the numbers certainly reflect that. You look at the 19 points per game, certainly a solid number there, but about 3 rebounds, about 3 assists, almost 2 steals per game. He shoots it really well. I mean, just all the way around, a very complete player.
Yeah, you know what? He has really improved his shooting. That's what I want to point to. 42% from three-point land and 90% from the free throw line. You can tell a lot about a player by how well they shoot percentage-wise from 3, from the field, and from the line. This guy can shoot it. He just is a good shooter, but he gets his teammates involved. And like his coach said during the piece, he knows when to turn it on and take games over, and he knows when to distribute it and get the rest of his team involved. And some games, that's the defensive plan the whole way. Just take Mason out, and he knows how to get the rest of his team going to get some wins this year.
All right, well, let's talk about his future now. By the way, he's at 1,001 career points after 24-point performance last night against Pierce. So congratulations to him on that milestone. But let's look forward now, Jason. A lot of these athletes that we've been featuring throughout the season have already had their college decisions in front of them. They've known exactly what they're going to do. Does he, or is it up in the air a little bit?
Yeah, usually one of the best players in the state has a few options ready to go. He definitely has some options, but he told me he's probably going to take the junior college route for a year or 2. And he lives, by the way, in Miami during the summers, and he plays his AAU ball down there, so he's got a few options down there. He's got a few options around here. He just wants to see how things play out over the next 2 years. So, you know what? It's wide open for him. I think he's going to have a lot of interest because you always need good point guard play. He definitely brings that to the table.
Back to this year. How far can this guy lead Stevens?
Well, in the AA ranks, you know that anything can happen, and he's got a huge advantage playing the state championship, the tournament, in his backyard. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage for Archambault and crew. But they only have 2 returning starters from last year. I mean, this is not a team that's just going to blow teams away, but with his leadership, definitely not counting this team out as a team that can go all the way.
Definitely an exciting guy to watch, that's for sure.
Fun.
All right, good stuff, Jandy. Well, coming up next, there are only a handful of unbeaten teams left in either Dakota. Jandy's going to put out his undefeated watch in this week's basketball forecast next. Well, as we all know, an undefeated season is something special, and only a few teams still have a chance at perfection in the Dakotas. Jason joins us now with a look at who that might be. Jason?
Thanks, Jay. Well, we've issued an undefeated watch and some undefeated warnings for the Dakotas. And as you know, a watch only means conditions are right to run the table, but a warning is much more serious. So to level the playing field, we're going to look at the unbeaten teams within their own class. We won't hold out-of-state or playing up a class against these people in the watches and warnings. So let's start in North Dakota, where Fargo Davies has run out to an 18-0 start. They've had a difficult climb through the East region, but it's going to get a little tougher when they start playing some West teams here coming up in the playoffs. Let's look at St. John now. This might be the most surprising undefeated team so far. 17 wins in a row, led by their juniors, Kyler McGillis at 24 points per game and Dalton Prouty at 17 points and 10 rebounds per game. They have had no single-digit wins yet this year. Things will get tougher for them in the playoffs, however. And we have two undefeated teams in Class B, the North Star Girls and the Kindred Girls, both out to 20-0 perfect regular seasons as they hit their stride coming up in the North Dakota playoffs. I think North Star probably has the best chance of anyone to complete that sweep throughout the year. All right, let's take a look at South Dakota. Down here, we've got the Bridgewater Emory boys. I didn't see this coming. They're off to a 17-0 start. Their starters, Cade Schmidt, Sam Aaron, Jamin Aaron, Cole Gassman, and Sawyer Schultz have been outstanding. They've beaten 3 top 5 teams so far this year, and they're doing it convincingly. Let's take a look out west, where St. Thomas More always makes an appearance on the map. This is a warning, folks. They have been undefeated in Class A since February 21st, 2013. That's almost 4 years ago since they've had a loss in the class. So this one's very serious. This is definitely a warning. And if they're going to get tested this year, it might be by these girls right here. The Hamlin girls at 19-0. They've been in 2 overtime games this year, but they have kept their record perfect under Lexi Wadsworth and her leadership. So great job by the Chargers so far. Ethan will round out this watch list. They too have been in an overtime game, but other than that overtime game with Sully Buttes, it's been smooth sailing. Yes, you do see that one loss there. That is out of class, so we're not going to hold that against them. So that's a look at your warnings and watches. Now it's time to take a look at the Thunder Report. Keep sending those dunks in. We only got a couple dunks to show you this week. And Jack Talley, who often makes an appearance, I almost missed his dunk because I was worried about somebody sliding into me, but I did catch the end of it. Let's take another look at that as Jack Talley brings the Thunder for Sioux Falls, Washington. That guy can leap out of the gym. All right, let's take a look now at, this is actually over a week ago. We got this video from 8th grader Matt Moores out of Yankton. You've heard a little bit about him. Well, we saw what he can do on the fast break here. Jumps up, hangs on the rim a little bit for effect. Nice job by Matthew Moores putting it down, and I think we're going to see several more years of dunks out of this guy in the Thunder Report. So continue to send those dunks in. We love seeing you on the Thunder Report. Now it's time to take a look at some of the best games coming up over the next 7 days. And as you can see, another full slate of awesome games. Thursday, we've got a couple good battles. Thursday, not usually a great night for high school hoops, but we've got Vermilion visiting Madison, and then we've got Belle Fourche with just 1 loss on the year, ending out their season against St. Thomas More. Friday, the big 1 versus 2 battle in Brookings. Can't wait for that one, O'Gorman and Brookings. And then West Fargo looks for some revenge on Friday against Cheyenne. Saturday, a big one in Shiloh Christian in Bismarck, where 4 wins will get tested. And then at the end of the week, coming up next Tuesday, the inter-city battle. Rapid City Stevens taking on Rapid City Central. Both girls teams doing very well this year. And Red River and Shanley, a big EDC matchup to end out the regular season.
All right, thanks, Jason. Stay tuned. Coming up, we're going to talk pretenders and contenders as we draw the line in the sand next in the Fast Break.
You're watching Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network. Let's go!
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. It is time now for the Fast Break. And good news, Janny, last week you actually managed to beat the shot clock.
Ran the fast break
from start to finish.
Yes.
Can you do it again? That is the ultimate question. And we're about to find out the answer. This week we're going to play contender or pretender in boys basketball. Simple enough, right? All right, let's get to it. We'll start with Class AA in South Dakota. How many true title contenders are there in AA boys?
Well, it really wouldn't shock me to see any of maybe 10 teams.
10?
10 out of the 17 teams win it all. Remember, last season, Lincoln was sub 500, and
true.
They ran the table. I think teams remember that very well, and I think while O'Gorman's and Brookings have been great this year, only a couple losses for each, I don't see them as the type of teams that just go into the tournament as automatic favorites. I think you got to talk about Brandon Valley, Washington, even Lincoln again. Huron is building since they've become healthy. Pierre's gotten on a little bit of a roll lately. Stevens, of course, playing some home games, and Aberdeen and Watertown even. Watertown's had some quality wins, so didn't make it on my first try, but I think there's a lot of teams that could make that run in March.
All right, well, how about Class A then? Where does that contender-pretender line fall?
It seems like the top teams are all kind of beating each other up, and I think that's where the contenders live, in that top part of this poll. I think there's 5 teams right now, exactly the teams that are in my power rankings right now, that it really wouldn't shock me to see win it all. I think Madison has to be your favorite at this point. I think with their wins over Sioux Valley, Chester, T, St. Thomas More, Sioux Falls Christian, Chamberlain, Del Rapids, just so many teams, quality teams that they've beaten. I think outside that top 5, it's going to be so hard for them to win 1 or 2 games against this top-level competition. So give me 5 teams.
Oh, just under the gun there. All right, in Class B now, we have 1 unbeaten team in Bridgewater Emory. How far does the contender list go beyond them, or is it just the...
Well, it goes further than them, that's for sure, but not very far. I think those Huskies are so good that it's going to make it tough for anybody to really upend them, but it wouldn't shock me to see the Langfords, the Warners, the Chesters, and of course Corsica Stickney with a couple quality wins this year put some type of a run together. So I think we got maybe 4 legit title contenders in this group, but Bridgewater Emory really feels like the favorite.
Yeah, they're pretty good. All right, well, to North Dakota now. Class A features Davies, who's undefeated, and then a host of WDA teams that are playing at a pretty high level right now. How do you size this particular group up?
Well, you're right. The cream of the crop in the EDC is Davies. That we know. It's tough to tell just how good they are because they haven't been tested by those WDA teams yet, and I think there are 3 real title contenders that live in the WDA right now, and we saw it last week with Century getting a big win. We saw Dickinson go on a 15-game run. We have a lot of good teams out there that could do some big things. So not sure if Fargo Davies can live up to that, but they're definitely in that group with them. And I think you could throw West Fargo in that group as well as a team that could maybe make a run.
Yeah, they're playing pretty well here as of late, too. Finally, North Dakota Bees. Who do you like?
Again, I think we've got a really fun tournament ahead in this class. I'm looking at the teams who've really tested themselves during the regular season, and there are a lot of them. We're going to start with the obvious ones. 4 wins Minnewacan, just 1 slip up on the year. They seem to be the team to beat. But how about St. John's? They've really mowed through their schedule. No single-digit wins this year, but they got a really tough group to go through. And how about Oak Grove has some quality wins? Trinity has played a really tough schedule. Thompson, Shiloh, Solon, Northern Cass could do it. The list goes on and on. Richland, Linton had a big win last week. I'm going over time. I know New Rockford, Cheyenne. I think there are a lot. I'm going to say, I think I did the math here, 12 contenders in this class. It's a big class, wide open as of right now.
Wide open. That's exactly
I really
what
think
if
it
you
is.
think there's 12 teams, I think that pretty much says it all. All right, well, good stuff. You almost made it. About half of them.
I didn't do very well.
Yeah,
this
it's
week.
okay. That's all right. Next week. All right?
We got it.
All right, stay tuned. Our battle for bragging rights still far from settled. We're going to see if we can change that next as we offer up our picks for some of this week's big games.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Well, postseason time almost here, Jason, and that means our battle for this pick'em title is really starting to intensify, and we are almost in a dead heat yet again. You've got me by 1 point to this point, but I feel like that might change.
All right, we'll see what happens
after this week. All right, let's get into it. North Dakota girls, Grand Forks, Red River at Shanley.
Man, this EDC has been fun to watch, hasn't it? So many teams so close together. I can't really find too much differentiation between these two teams, so I'm going to go with the home team here. I'm going to take the easy way out. Give me Shanley.
Well, Shanley did get a 15-point win over Red River in Grand Forks back on January 13th, but I look at one particular matchup I find interesting coming in. Red River 2-0 against Davies. Shanley is 0-2 against Davies. Who knows? Could just be a matchup thing. I don't know. I like Red River because I got to make up points. Anyway, North Dakota boys, Cheyenne and West Fargo. This was a good one the first time around.
Last time we picked these games, I went with Cheyenne. Got it right. This time, I think West Fargo gets it done. Too much scoring power, and they're going to find a way to get the win.
I like West Fargo as well. They've won 8 straight. They're 8-0 at home, and I feel like they're not going to want to get swept by their fellow West Fargo squad. All right, South Dakota girls, always a good one out west. Stevens and Central, always fun when they get together.
Yeah, you know what? And this year it ramps up even more. Both these programs have taken huge steps up. I think Rapid City Central probably has a little bit more varied scoring. Stevens has been playing over their heads a little bit to this point. Nothing against them, but I think they've probably hit their plateau. I think Central could get even better. Maya Jones and company get it done.
Yeah, Central coming off a really tough 6-game road trip where they went 3-3. It featured games at Stevens, Aberdeen Central, Lincoln, and Washington. So they managed to win half of those games. That was pretty impressive. I just kind of like where they're at right now a little bit better, and that's enough for me. I'm going to give them the win here. In boys, good AA matchup here, O'Gorman and Brookings.
Oh, this one's going to be fun. They're pumped up in Brookings for this battle. I am sold on Brookings' man-to-man defense. I think they're going to be able to man up with J.P. Costello and Cartwright. Devin Coughlin is a great individual defender. I'm taking Brookings.
I'm not as sold yet on Brookings. I want to see a little bit more. They've got almost as many wins over winless teams, 3, as they do over above 500 teams, 4. Now, I don't know if it means a thing, but enough for me to take O'Gorman in this game. I think the Knights have been pretty battle-tested to this point. All right, finally, quickly, upsets.
I'm going to take Dakota Valley boys over Madison. Madison's playing a back-to-back. Dakota Valley's had some quality wins. Big upset there.
I like Shiloh Christian over 4 wins, and I know you talked about what a title contender 4 wins is, but Shiloh's in that group as well. So you're saying, how can it be an upset? Well, Shiloh's lost 3 of their last 5 games, Jandy. They're 14-4 overall, though. All 4 of those losses are on the road. This game's at home where they're 7-0. I like Shiloh Christian to upset 4 wins. We'll see if I'm right. We'll let you know. Anyway, that's it for us for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the games, everybody.